Hello sewing fans and welcome back. I'm here with another amazing tutorial on how to cut and sew this off-shoulder Basque pencil dress with structured sleeves. Do not forget to subscribe and like for more sewing inspirations. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Let's get started. I'll start by gathering all the materials we need to bring this project to life. Here are some beautiful flowers to be added at the border center front for an extra touch of elegance. Next up, we have a 7-meter boning tape, and I've chosen a non-stitch type for this project because it's stiffer and will provide more structure for the sleeves. And that's why you see this glue gun here, which is to be used in attaching the boning. But don't worry if you don't have a glue gun, because you can always use a stitchable boning instead. Then there is a 2-meter cotton lining for both the top and bottom part of the dress. In order to add some structure to the borders, we'll be using a gum stay interfacing. Lastly is this gorgeous 6-yard African print fabric. This is actually enough for 2 outfits, which is why I'll only need about 2 yards for this one, leaving plenty for another project. Let's focus on front borders drafting. We'll be working on this paper with all the horizontal measurements and yoke already drafted. Don't worry if you haven't mastered these steps yet, because you can watch any of my previous videos where I have explained everything. To place the darts, start by measuring half bust span on waistline. Do the same on chest line. Once you have both marks, simply draw a straight line connecting the two. This will be your dart line. On top of that, measure half an inch to the left of that line you just drew. Then mark the second one 3/4 of an inch to the right side true, as can be seen. I'm actually repeating this process on underbust line just so I can draw straight lines connecting waistline marks to underbust line marks on both sides of that line. Now that we have that drawn, measure again 1 inch down from bust line. Then shape the dart further by drawing smooth curves to meet the parallel lines drawn earlier. Once you are done shaping lower part of the dart, we need to find midpoint of the shoulder slope and mark it. This will be our guide for extending that line all the way up to that point. I'm about to draw sweater neckline, which is why we'll start by marking key points. Measure 1 inch down from the chest line to establish the bottom edge of the sweater curve. Again, move 1 inch upwards on the dart line itself. This will define top point of each. We'll take another ½ inch down from armhole to create smooth transition into neckline curve. So now it's on the last mark where I'll square out new chest line. From here we get to draw sweater neckline. On draw neckline, go ahead and measure ½ an inch to the left of that line. Make another 1 inch to the right of that line as well. After it, draw straight lines that connect this new neckline point to the existing dart line on both sides. With that line drawn, let's measure quarter waist circumference on waistline, plus 1.5 inches dart replacement, plus about 1 inch seam allowance. We already have quarter bust circumference marked here, so I'll only add 1 inch dart replacement before I can add further 1 inch seam allowance. That being so, let's define borders outline in that manner. I'm currently cutting out a long shaped outline. Let's see how that transforms things. Next step involves drafting back part on this other piece with horizontal lines already drawn. It's equally important to note that another slight difference is the 1 inch neck depth as opposed to what you saw earlier. I want to start by taking half bust span on waistline and on bust line just so I can draw that line along the 2 points. Additionally, measure dart width of 1 inch, whereas for the dart depth, move 1 inch upwards from chest line and mark dart point or apex. Once done, finish up the basic dart as can be seen. I'm now going to take quarter waist circumference on waistline, plus 1 inch dart replacement, plus 1 inch more stitching allowance. On top of that, add same stitching allowance on chest line, then go ahead and draw back border side edge with the help of a ruler, of course. Pay close attention to see how to draft top edge. After moving 1 inch down at the center back from chest line, draw neckline in that manner. From there, let's also measure 1.5 inches from center back so as to leave room for the lacing loop, because that's what I'll be using in place of zipper. I'm currently cutting out a long outline. Time to move on to skirt part drafting. And by now I hope you all know that folding your fabric in this manner allows you to cut both the front and back parts all at once. So from the drawn waistline, I'll check the vertical measurement starting with waistline to hip line at 10 inches. On top of that, I'll take waistline to full length line at 36 inches. If you notice, I'm leaving out 15.5 inches when doing so, since that's the total border's full length. From there, let's also take quarter waist circumference strictly from the center front, plus 1 inch dart replacement, plus 2 inches more for stitching allowance. Next is quarter hip circumference plus 2 inches allowance, and lastly a round bottom of 9 inches plus same stitching allowance. And given these points, smooth outside edge using a hip curve ruler. Ever wondered why your skirt facing come up small? Well, this method eliminates shortage to ensure perfect fit. Simply fold the fabric from full length line and mark a new cut line before cutting out. As can be seen, gumstay is already ironed on the borders pieces like I said earlier. And very fast, let's head over to the sewing machine in order to attach side panels to the center. And same goes for back and also lining pieces. This is me showing you how to stitch the panels. If you noticed, I started stitching from the bottom edge upward and I'm stitching with 0.5 inches. Kindly take your time during this process to ensure accurate fit. Same considerations will apply to lining pieces as well. Also me joining back pieces to front pieces from sides. Do not worry about the hinge allowance because I'm actually going to just trim off excess fabric. At this point everything is ironed flat and the Basque effect came out as it should. Let's now focus on putting right sides together just so we can stitch a long neckline with 1/4 inch from one end all the way. And of course after each, notching and top stitching is a must. Here is what we've got after stitching, notching and top stitching. Went ahead and stitched lining pieces to fabric from skirt parts. Take note that this is the center line. I'm currently taking slit allowance measurement at 6 inches as well as zipper allowance at 7 inches from waistline. So now I'll be stitching loosely along the zipper space, a back stitch that will be followed with small normal stitches, back stitch again, and loose stitches along slit allowance. Guys, this is how the front part of the skirt looks like with the dart stitch. Back part though is a bit different. Stitch basic darts, but this time on lining and fabric separately. I'll be revealing why in a moment. You see from this notch right here, turn the fabric right side out and stitch along waistline junction to the notch both sides. And this is why it's important to stitch back and side darts as I did. From here, let's bring forth the borders piece. Right sides put together and stitch along waistline with 0.5 inches from one end to the other. Remember that must align true. After attaching main fabric part of borders to skirt, repeat the same with the lining as well. You'll end up with something like this. So now I'm going to turn it right side out. See how I've achieved flawless finish both sides. From here I'm going to stitch the lacing loops pieces in between the main fabric and lining of the back pieces, 5 on each side. Then I'll also go ahead and fix a zipper. A hidden zipper it is, look at that guys. And for lacing, I made a longer rope that I'll use, which is about 15 inches. Stay tuned to see the fun part, that's to fix the structured sleeves. I've made 8 ropes in slightly varying sizes for each sleeve. The same goes for the boning tapes, which are also different in length. And to achieve the curved shape you see here, you can iron them such that as you do so you kind of curve them. Next we'll tackle inserting boning into the ropes, and I'm going to tackle these off camera and return and show you the outcome. There seems to be a gap in the footage where I was arranging sleeve part. Now the only step remaining is to decorate the center front of the dress with some flowers, best way I can. once I secured the first flower, I experimented with the second one until I was totally happy with the design I wanted to achieve. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. Thank you once again for your continued support. I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. Bye.